Greetings. I am Dr. Paulina Van, author of Regala Healing, an evocative approach to self care, self understanding, and inner healing. I have the honor of hosting this show, The Poetry of Healing. I want to welcome you from all over the world, and we'd love to know where you're joining from. So if you'd mind putting it in the chat, we'd really appreciate it. And during the show, you can do as many likes and shares. That would be really helpful as well. Mother's Day is celebrated in more than 50 countries across the world. Not all countries celebrate it on the same day or even the same month. In the United States, we honored and celebrated mothers just a few days ago, the second Sunday in May, as did many Latin American countries and India. March is another popular month to honor mothers in the UK, Middle East, and several African countries such as Sudan and Nigeria. During the time we're together today, and I use the word mother, it refers to birth mothers, foster mothers, adoptive mothers, play mothers, anyone who has nurtured and supported the growth of someone. Today's show is all about the influence and impact of a mother's advice on daughters in their adult stages of life. Well, we have two special guests for this show, and one is my daughter, and the other is like a daughter, and they'll join us later in the program. I ask you to join me and embrace the goals for this session or time together. And I hope to guide you to learn about the best advice um, given to mothers, given to women by their mothers. Understand how maternal advice has influenced their journey into and as adults, and explore ways to strengthen the mother-daughter bond connection. And we're going to participate in a meditation for Black girls and women. We always begin our time together with a centering exercise to help focus and collect our energy for the time together, a time for you, a gift to yourself. So let's take a moment and settle into this space so we can be fully present. And we're going to practice heart math, heart focused breathing to open our hearts and receive what this time together has to offer. Many of you know this. This is how we typically open the program. So it's an invitation. And I invite you to lower your gaze, close your eyes, or focus on a stationary object. Connecting with your heart by doing heart focused breathing. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips before we start. When you inhale, you're going to inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth very slowly. Let's begin. I'm going to ask you to focus your attention in the area of your heart, the left side of your chest. And I want you to imagine your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or chest area, breathing a little slower and deeper than usual. And what might help is if you put your hand over your heart area, and you can also count. For example, you can count inhaling through your nose, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, some of you may need a little shorter interval to breathe in and out. You can count to 4. And those exercise buffs, you might want a little more time, and you can count to 6. So take one more breath, heart breath on your own, imagining when you breathe in, your beautiful heart is getting bigger. And then when you breathe out, your beautiful heart is getting smaller. I'd like you to take one deep breath to notice you are here. Take one deep breath to notice how your body feels. And now take one deep breath and enter this session. For those viewers who have just joined us, I am Dr. Paulina Van, the author of Regala Healing, an evocative approach to self care, self understanding, and inner healing, and the host of this show, The Poetry of Healing. And we've just completed a centering exercise to bring us into the session. So if you're just joining us, you can just take a couple of deep breaths so you'll enter our circle of energy. The title of today's show is all about mother and daughter relationships. And I want to give you a little background before we get started. Mother daughter relationships are extremely powerful and impact our self image, emotional well being, coping, self worth, self esteem, our ability to relate to others, even our romantic relationships, and relationships with other Black women. In order to understand the advice Black mothers give to their daughters, it would be helpful to understand the roots of their experiences which form that advice and the context within those experiences occurred. So let's begin with slavery. The atrocities of slavery and Black women are in perpetual state of healing from this pain held deeply in the body, mind, soul, every fiber of our being, including deep pain in the womb. And that was passed from her womb to the daughter's womb, the generation to generation, those intergenerational effects. Let's look at society. Society has denigrated um, women of African descent for a very long time. Black mothers raised their daughters within a historical and social, political, psychological context in which race, gender, economic oppression exists and should not be ignored. And this doesn't it doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, educated or highly educated, it affects all of us. Lastly, I'd like to discuss the image um, of the quality of the mother daughter relationships. And society, even though these relationships um, affect so many parts of our adult lives, society and the media paint images and create scenarios that are not reflective of our reality or the totality of the Black experience of mothering. So when we look at labels that are placed on Black mother daughter relationships, they include toxic, difficult, strained, unhealthy, Black women destroying their daughters. Okay. So the reality is, challenges do exist in these relationships, but not all of our relationships. And definitely, challenging relationships, mother daughter, are not owned solely by Black mothers and daughters. So let's take a look at some positive realities for Black women and mothers, which don't get the press, which don't get the same press. So we know we are the backbone of the family, pillar of strength, protective, survivors. And so now I'd like to invite our guests in, and they are very near and dear to me. So, Angelica and Jasmeen, want to welcome you. Looking very gorgeous today. Um, I'll introduce you, and then we're going to jump right in, okay? So, Angelica is my daughter, and she has been in the fashion industry for about 15 years and recently started a beauty spa business. Congratulations, Angelica.
Thanks,
And
Mom.
Jascmeen, she is like a daughter to me. She is a creative designer in the industry and also an entrepreneur um, of her own clothing business. And so we're going to talk about lessons that you have learned, you beautiful daughters, from your mothers. Okay. So let's start with what is the best advice that you learned from your mother? And so, Angelica, I'm going to ask you to get started. What was the best advice you learned from me? And I don't know what you're going to say, so I'm going to anchor myself.
I would say to take care of yourself, make sure you're whole. So other areas of your life will, everything else will fall into place once you take care of yourself.
Mhm,
So if you are a whole person,
mhm,
then whether it's your work life, like your romantic life, relationships with friends and family, you're able to fill others' cups if you as long as your cup is filled.
mhm, mhm. And so, how has that affected your adult life? How have you taken that advice into your adult life?
I would say I've taken it for my adult life because being an adult, as you become an adult, you gain more responsibility. So there's more areas where your energy is needed, your attention is needed, just different things you need to take care of. And life can be stressful. So I feel like just focusing on self care and making sure you're okay mentally, emotionally, just making sure you're good as a person. Um, it helps with other, I would say, difficulties that come along,
Mhm,
and just other things you have to tackle as an adult.
mhm,
It's just best to focus on yourself to make sure you're in a good enough place mentally to take on other tasks that come with adulthood,
mhm.
womanhood, being a woman, and
Okay,
just different things that come at us.
thank you. Thank you. So, Jasmine, what is the best advice that your beautiful mother gave you? And how
Um,
have you taken it into your adulthood?
I think the best advice my mom gave me was really about like setting boundaries
Mm,
and teaching people, what you will and will not accept. She has a phrase, it's like you order the chicken, you get the chicken. So it's kind of like knowing what you're getting into and kind of just like setting the right precedents for how you want people to treat you and to give that in return.
mm,
And I think I apply it most probably to sustain like a work life balance.
mm,
So because I do so many projects, it's like I will, if I sign up to do something, I will do it,
mhm,
but I still have to have, my time and unplugging from social, especially like when you work on social, it's really important to unplug
mhm,
and to just draw the line. It's like it's after work hours. I can't do that for you right now.
mm,
Um, so yeah, I think it's just the boundaries and teaching people how to treat you. It's the
mm.
most important.
Wonderful. That is absolutely wonderful. Well, I'm going to share mine. And my mother went to heaven 25 years ago, but I still remember her advice over the years. And so I grew up in the 50s. And so there's no way that her advice was us sitting down and talking about it. I grew up in an environment where children were seen and not heard. But um, one of the things I would hear her say in passing what were all related to finances because she was an accountant. And so she always said, make sure you have your own. So have a stash just in case you need it. And then the other, and that has served me well because when life happened and I had to move and get my own place, I had a stash and I was able to do that and do it seamlessly. The other is about when you own a home. She said, don't take the equity out. And I wasn't always so good in that. So anyway, that was my lesson. So both of you kind of talked about self-care as well, but is there anything specific about caring for yourself that additionally you'd like to add? So, Jasmine, I'm going to start with you. Are there any self-care secrets that your mother gave you that
Um,
you'd like to share?
my mom is a big supporter of like, you know, staying groomed, keeping yourself together, but more so like, okay, if the shop is closed, you should know how to do your own nails.
Mhm.
If you can't get in the salon, you should know how to like wash and take care of your hair. And like, obviously as a teenager, it's kind of like, well, whatever, I want to go to the shop. But
Mhm.
you get older and then with COVID, you remember like those little things like actually make you feel better. And then when we weren't able to go do those things all, during lockdown, I was like, wow, it really does affect your mental state when you're able to take care of yourself and
Mhm.
keep those patterns and have that me time. So I think that I specifically get from my mom, like having all those tools at home, like just in case you have to whip it together and be your own little stylist, you got to be ready.
Well, Jasmine, I've seen you star yourself, and you have so many skills. I know you're not in cosmetology or nail specialist or colorist, but you do okay. So you're
Thank you.
taking your mother's advice and ran with it. Yeah,
Thank you.
beautiful. Angelica, anything else you'd like to add about self-care?
I would say just having balance. These days we work so hard, and to piggyback onto what you mentioned about having your own, like, a lot of focus is on just making sure you're okay. So just having the balance to, like, you work hard, you're making money, but it's just like make sure you take care of yourself. Like, do things that make you happy. If there's something that you like to purchase because it'll make you happy, do that. If you want to take a vacation, take some time to yourself, whatever the case. Um, just make sure you have that balance between, like, what are you working for? Like, you're not just working to pay your bills, you're working to enjoy life as well. So I would say that's something that you've been big on. Like, I'll call you and say, like, should I do this or whatever the case. So I also like to be responsible, but you always make it a big point to just enjoy life. Like, you never know what's going to happen tomorrow, so do things that make you happy. If you're going through, like, if you're having a rough work day or just work in general is stressful, just make sure that you're finding something that makes you happy so that you have a good balance. And I would say that has definitely helped because today can be very stressful.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Now, I began by saying that the image of the Black mother-daughter relationship is not very positive sometimes, and so I know that both of you know you may have friends that may not have had a positive, nurturing mother-daughter relationship, or maybe right now have no relationship with their mother. And so, my question to you is, what advice have you found helpful for individuals that don't have a close relationship with their mother? What's one thing that you think would help? Oh,
I can go. I'll go.
uh-huh.
I think it all starts with empathy. And
Mhm,
sometimes, like, if me and my mom like aren't seeing eye to eye, I try to remember that she's not my mom. She's a person,
mhm,
and she has her own like set of experiences that may inform her actions or her beliefs. But just remembering that my mom is not just someone that was born as my mom. She had a whole life. She has her own independent life aside of like the mom role. And if we're not seeing eye to eye, maybe it's like not her mothering me. It's just, oh, that's Sonia. That's what you think.
mhm,
And it's just her individual thought process and just seeing parents beyond their whole life revolving around us, especially if you're like an only child, or if you like, I only have one sibling. So sometimes it feels like a lot of focus,
Mhm.
but really it's just like my mom being like herself.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow. When your mother sees this, I know that she is going to smile
She better cry.
because it is so, so, oh my gosh. Okay. Angelica, is there anything else you would like to add?
I would say the same. I think that it's important to look at the bigger picture, and that how, like, just because you guys don't have a good relationship, it might have come from like generational situations. So I don't think it's personal towards you. It's just like, just maybe it's generational, maybe it's just other things she has going on in life. But I would just say, just probably take the time to understand what she's going through too. And just know, like Jasmine said, she is a person. So just think of how you feel and just apply that to when you become a mother, or if you are a mother with your children too. Just try to have a better relationship so they don't experience the same thing. So it's not just going down from generation to generation.
Mhm. That is absolutely beautiful. Well, I have another tip, and that is if you don't have that relationship with your mom, reach out to someone else, an aunt, um, a close friend. I had many mothers, and they were mothers of my friends. And so that is another way. And always don't lose hope. Um, and even for those of you whose mothers have passed on, mine went to heaven 25 years ago, but I still talk to her. Um,
Mm.
and um, and if I listen with my heart, I'll hear her. So um, I know that you guys have a question for me about a poem in the book, and it's this is so interesting because both of you chose the same one separately. Okay. One of you were more deliberate. The other one put her finger in the book and it opened to the same one. So it has to be the one that um, I read. So it's called I Believe, and it's on page 121. For those of you who have the book, it's on page 121 in the physical book and on page 77 in the ebook. And it's called I Believe Too. I believe the time is now. I believe I know how. I believe my spirit is on fire. I believe I'm inspired. I believe my purpose revealed. I believe I am healed. So tell me why that resonated with you, or tell me why it resonated with you, or what question you might have, or anything you want to say about it. Angelica, you go first.
Um, it resonated with me because I feel, I was talking to you about, so last year I turned 35. I'm about to turn 36 this month. And I just feel like literally like the day I turned 35, it's just like I just got a new energy. And I just felt like a real adult, I guess you could say. But I just felt like it was like my time. I started a business that year. I created more boundaries, like Jasmine said, that year. And I just felt like I just had a new energy, and it was like my time to really just become the woman that I want to become. And I felt like it was actually happening.
Mhm.
So from the past that kind of like affected me, like emotionally or mentally, I felt like I was putting more of that behind me, or just not being in denial about it, just accepting it more. And it's just kind of helped me to heal and really just, like I said, become the woman that um, I've always wanted to be. And it kind of just fueled me to just be that person. And with a lot of changes that year for the better. It's just all, I just feel like everything is coming together.
Mhm. And Jasmine?
Um, so this one resonated with me. Actually, me and Angelica were talking about this too. It's just like this year from, since this since I turned 35 as well. It's just like I feel like a lot of seeds that I have been planting are finally growing, especially like in my career, and just feeling like, okay, now everything is blossoming. And now I'm like using more wisdom and like, what do I want to engage with? What am I going to give energy to? What can I just say? You know, I'm just going to let that go. But I really feel like I'm in a good season for myself to be able to like see my own patterns and learn how to break them, and to just be able to look at things from a bird's eye view instead of, you know, getting in your own head. Just be able to look calmly and make better decisions that my future self and my younger self would be proud of. I feel like I'm right in the sweet spot.
Well, on that note, you two sweethearts, I am just so glad that you joined us for this time together and the wisdom that you have shared. And I've held back little tears just watching both of you just evolve into the beautiful women that you are. So I love you both, and just thank you for joining us. Okay,
I love you too, and thank you for having
Love
us.
you too.
you're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Okay, all right. Well, um, that was, I had no idea what they were going to share, and it's just really, really special. Um, I'm going to try to close now and say that mother daughter relationships are one of the most intimate and sacred connections that one can have. And women who have enriching mother daughter relationships or connections tend to nurture them in the following ways. They spend time together, just doing things together. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate, to be watching a movie, taking a walk. Angelica and I go on vacations a lot. Jasmine has been on vacation with us as well. The other thing that Jasmine made reference to is that these mother daughters handle conflict well. And so they keep their emotions in check and try to avoid screaming at each other. And I know it's hard because we're going to have differencing of opinion, but it's so important to just be fair in that communication. And then have each other's backs, lean on each other for support when needed, in the good or in the bad. And lastly, well, not lastly, last what I'm going to share with you is to admire and adore each other for who they are, and don't try to change each other. Okay. All right. Lastly, I just like to I lead you through a very mini meditation to kind of ground what we've talked about tonight or today, maybe morning where you are. Um, and so I just like you to just breathe in something that you've been wishing for. Just breathe it in. Is it love? Is it peace? Whatever you want. And there's no limit. And then breathe out what's not serving you well. Is it impatience? Is it anger? Is it frustration? Just breathe it out. One more time. Breathe in something you want. Just envision it and put it in your heart. And then breathe out anything that's not serving you well. Okay. And I'm going to read one more selection, one more poem that Jasmine and Angelica suggested. And I can't say this is one of my favorites, but I do like this one. And it's called I Realize, and it's on page 21 of the book and 24 of the ebook. And it's I realize my heart is whole. I realize I'm not what I've been told. I realize love is the seat of my soul. I realize I make a difference. It is with this essence I continue my journey, loving myself into eternity. So I ask that you join me every first and third Sunday at 9 a.m. This show is aired at a special time. I'm usually here every first and third Sunday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And again, if you like and share this program, it'd be very helpful. Leave comments. I will read them and respond to them. I ask that you visit my site, regalahealing.com, and you can also get information about how to get my book. And our director, Ellis, will show us the QR code that you can just scan with your phone, and it'll take you directly to my website. And there are other videos and all types of resources for you for healing and self care. I want to thank you for joining me today. And as always, I leave you with love and light until we see each other again.